I think when I joined a local plein air group, I think probably about that time, about 2012. And I was getting outside and painting and learning how to see color more clearly. So the reason I did that was because I have a teacher here in Middle Tennessee that I love. Dawn Whitelaw is her name. Um, she's quite famous for her portraiture and her plein air work. And I went to her and said, Dawn, how can I become a better portrait artist? And she said, get outside and paint. And I said, what? I think she told me that years before. And I had three daughters at home. And I thought, how can I do? I can't just haul them out. And I just couldn't do it. So I ignored that advice for probably 10 years and continued painting tonally. I knew I wanted to be a painter forever, but I hadn't had any real instruction other than books, just getting so many books. And, this was during this time, there was no internet. So I was buying books and just studying them a good bit. And I started teaching myself how to sketch with a brush. And it was so hard for me, Simon. It was so hard to go from that precise little tip to this big stick with, that you can't control. And it was upsetting, and yet I was determined. So I read in books that in art schools, they would teach sketching for about a year, and then they would teach painting only tonally for another year. And so I thought, well, I've been sketching for a long time. I'll just start painting tonally. So I bought burnt umber and raw umber, a warm and a cool. And I just started getting a brush, and that work was mostly figurative work. So I would paint my children, or I would take pictures of someone that might model for me. And I created, tonal figurative paintings and even tonal florals, oddly. But I got into a gallery here in Nashville, and so that was very part-time. It was about a 15-year period where I was just selling tonal paintings, rather large pieces. And I had real good success with that, but I didn't have a clue as to how to manipulate color. I had no idea. And every time I tried, I just completely bombed. So I knew I had to get out there and learn how to mix color. For some reason, it didn't click for me at all. And so a happy happenstance living in Middle Tennessee. I haven't lived here. I guess we moved here in 1996 or so. And there's just this huge painting community in Middle Tennessee. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
No.
There's great artists that live and teach and work here. Shane Neal is one of my all-time favorite portrait artists. He lives here. Dawn Whitelaw, who I mentioned before. Anne Blair Brown is a landscape painter. Lori Putnam is an amazing landscape artist. I could just continue. There's so many. And so I've learned from them. They were all members of, well, I don't think Shane was, but they were all members of the Chestnut Group, which is a local plein air painting organization that raises money, fundraises for local, historical sites or museums, or well, we're sort of trying to keep the beautification of landmarks and parks alive and thriving in Middle Tennessee. So I'm so grateful for that experience. Or, that was a deep dive into learning how to mix color outside. And it was sort of it's just a community that I all of a sudden found myself in. I'm very grateful for that.